If you spend any time around golf, you hear this one word over and over again, feel.
Oh, constantly.
Feel the putter head, feel the line. It's treated like this magical, almost mystical quality that separates the great players from everyone else.
Right. But what if we told you that the secret to truly elite putting has nothing to do with intuition? That it's really about, cold, hard physics, things you can measure.
That is exactly what we're getting into today. Our source material is this incredibly deep technical report from something called the Quintet ball roll system.
And this system is basically the complete opposite of feel. It uses high-speed cameras. We're talking over 200 frames for a single putt. And it breaks down every single millisecond of what the ball is doing.
Okay, so let's set the mission here. We're essentially getting a shortcut to understanding what optimal putting actually looks like. The goal is simple, right? To see how well the ball goes from the chaos of impact into a predictable, smooth forward roll.
Precisely. And that's the whole game. It's the difference between hoping the ball goes in and knowing the physics say it should go in. So where do we start?
You have to start at the absolute beginning, the moment of contact. And the very first, most fundamental metric they look at is the launch angle.
Okay, define launch angle for us. And maybe more importantly, why can't a top-tier pro just eyeball this?
Well, the launch angle is simply the initial upward path of the golf ball, right as it leaves the putter face. But we're talking about incredibly tiny angles.
How tiny?
The optimal range, based on, years and years of data, is really narrow. It's between 0.75 and 2.5 degrees.
That is a minuscule window. So why is that 1 or 2 degrees so critical? Why not just hit it flat?
It all comes down to how the ball interacts with the turf. The report uses this great nest analogy.
A nest?
Yeah. Think about it. A golf ball sits on the green, and its own weight creates this tiny, shallow depression in the grass, a little nest.
Okay, I can picture that.
If your launch angle is too low, say 0 degrees, the ball slams right into the front lip of that little nest.
So instead of getting out cleanly, it's immediately fighting friction. It's caught.
Exactly. You lose speed instantly, you get skid, it's just inefficient. But on the flip side, if your launch angle's too high, maybe over 2.5 degrees, you're launching the ball into the air.
And airborne means bounce.
And bounce is the enemy. It's totally unpredictable. You lose control of your line, your speed, everything.
So you need just enough lift to get out of that depression without actually becoming a tiny airplane. So what did the data show for the player in this report?
Well, this is interesting. The initial finding was actually really positive. Their average launch angle was 1.55 degrees.
Oh, so right in the sweet spot.
Dead in the middle, which suggests, a fundamentally sound impact. The putter itself is doing its job.
But that's only half the story, right? The putter delivering the blow is one thing. What happens the instant the ball meets the green, that's where all the variables are.
And that takes us to the next data point, which is the comparison between launch angle and what they call flight angle.
What's the difference?
Launch angle is the math. It's what the club delivered. Flight angle is what the ball actually did. It's the observable path. You want them to be almost identical.
I see. So if my putter delivers a 1.5-degree launch, but the ball immediately jumps up at, say, 3 degrees.
Then something on the green interfered. The turf, the grains, some tiny imperfection made it hop higher than you intended. A big difference there means you're losing control.
And what's fascinating is that the report found a minimal difference for this player. So the initial interaction is clean. The energy transfer is efficient.
The delivery is clean, yes. But that leads to the real question. Where does the instability actually begin? And that brings us to maybe the most important metric of all, true roll distance.
True roll distance.
Right.
So how quickly does the ball get into a state of purity? What even is true roll?
True roll is the moment the ball stops skidding or bouncing and is just rolling forward perfectly on its own axis, like a wheel. For a golf ball, that means it rotates one full time every 5.25 inches.
And before that happens, it's just sliding.
Sliding, skidding, maybe hopping a little. It's in a vulnerable phase. Think of it like a car tire on a wet road trying to find grip.
That's a great analogy. It's susceptible to every little bump and bit of friction until it gets traction.
Exactly. So the goal is to get to true roll as fast as possible. The optimal distance is about 6 to 8 inches after impact. The shorter the skid, the better.
Okay, so what did the data say for this player with the good launch angle and all that?
And this is where the first crack in the armor appears. The data showed the ball didn't enter true roll until about 10 inches after impact.
10 inches, so that's 2, maybe 4 inches later than ideal. That doesn't sound like much, but at an elite level.
It's huge. Those extra inches of skid mean the energy transfer isn't as efficient as we thought. Something is delaying that perfect roll.
And what causes that delay if the launch was good?
It points to one thing: a lack of immediate forward spin.
Yeah.
And that sets us up for the part of this report that I think is the most shocking. The real revelation, the spin profile.
Because if you ask this player, they'd probably say they hit it with a good roll. Their feel would tell them it was solid.
Oh, absolutely. But the data tells a completely different story. The goal in putting is immediate forward spin, or at least, zero spin that quickly becomes forward spin.
But that's not what the cameras found.
Not at all. The high-speed video revealed the invisible problem. For a brief moment, right at impact, the ball had negative 38 RPM of backspin.
Wait, backspin, negative 38, on a putt.
On a putt.
Right.
And when you're measuring things in milliseconds, that momentary backspin is a disaster. It's like hitting the brakes for a split second right when you're trying to accelerate.
That explains the 10-inch delay in true roll. The ball is literally fighting itself. The putter is pushing it forward, but the spin is trying to pull it back.
That's the connection. That backspin is the root cause. It makes the ball scuff or skid along the turf, which can cause it to hop, and it absolutely kills predictable distance control.
That is just incredible. The player has no idea that's happening. So what are the mechanical flaws that would cause something like that? How do you even generate backspin on a putt?
The report points to a few main culprits. One could be too much loft on the putter itself. Another is hitting the ball too low on the face. But the most common one is a lack of proper shaft lean at impact.
Meaning the hands get behind the club head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even a tiny bit. That dynamically as locked. And you essentially scoop the ball just enough to impart that little bit of negative spin.
And I'm guessing the other data like skid and bounce, that all connects back to this backspin problem.
It does. They confirmed there was some minor bouncing and a longer skid phase, which are direct symptoms of that negative dynamic loft at impact. Getting rid of that is key, especially on really fast greens.
Okay, so we found the energy leak. Backspin is causing a delayed roll. Let's shift to the other big issue, which is consistency. Because you can hit one perfect putt, but if you can't repeat it, it's useless. This brings us to shaft angle consistency.
Right, which the report calls the hidden key to launch control.
Huh.
And this is where the data can really separate a good player from a truly great, repeatable one.
Shaft angle. That's just how much your hands are ahead of the ball, right?
Or behind it. And why it's so critical is because it controls the dynamic loft. Your putter might have 3 degrees of loft written on it. That's the static loft.
Okay.
But the ball doesn't care about that. It only cares about the loft you present at the moment of impact. If you lean the shaft forward, your hands are ahead, you reduce the loft. If your hands are back, you add loft.
So even with the same putter, if my shaft angle is all over the place,
Then every single putt is being hit with a different amount of loft. You might feel like you're making the same stroke, but you're delivering a different tool to the ball each time. It absolutely destroys repeatability.
the report had a really good comparison to illustrate this, comparing two types of players.
It did. It described player one, who had an incredibly consistent shaft angle. Putt after putt, the same delivery. And as a result, their launch and spin numbers were also rock solid. That's someone with great fundamentals.
And then there's player two.
Player two's shaft angle was variable, and so their launch and spin were, unpredictable. For that player, you don't need to change the equipment.
You need to change the mechanic.
Exactly. The data gives you a prescription. It says you need to work on your setup, your posture, your grip pressure, whatever it takes to stabilize that shaft angle. It removes all the guesswork.
And what's wild is that the player we're analyzing, the one with the good 1.55 degree average launch, he was actually player two.
Yes, the average looked good, but hidden inside that average were some really poor, inconsistent strikes that the system flagged.
That makes so much sense. The good average hid the backspin and the delayed roll. So let's get to the fix. After finding the 10-inch skid and the negative 38 RPMs, what did the report tell him to do?
The recommendations were surgically precise. First, an equipment change. Reduce the static loft of the putter by half a degree.
Just 0.5 degrees? That's the definition of a marginal gain.
A tiny change, but it's aimed directly at neutralizing that tendency to create backspin. Then, it moved to technique.
What did they change there?
They advised adjusting the stroke location to be a little higher on the ball to help promote a better roll. And the big one was to focus on maintaining a consistent, slight forward shaft lean. Keep the hands ahead and use a smooth tempo. Don't, stab at the ball.
Okay, the million-dollar question, the payoff. Did this data-driven fix actually work?
The results were pretty dramatic. The report showed that his worst, most inconsistent putts, the ones creating the backspin, were launching as low as 0.56 degrees,
So they were getting stuck in the nest.
badly stuck. After the adjustments, those low outliers just vanished. His minimum launch jumped way up, ensuring the ball always cleared the turf cleanly.
And what about the big problems? The skid, the true roll?
The skid distance was reduced by nearly half. True rolls was achieved much sooner. And crucially, the backspin was gone. The spin profile was consistently positive, forward biased. The report's conclusion was that his roll consistency dramatically improved.
It's the perfect validation of the process. The player had what felt like a good stroke, but the high-speed data found these hidden inefficiencies. A few inches of skid here, a moment of backspin there, that were holding him back.
Exactly. It proves that the difference between feeling like you hit a good putt and actually hitting a technically perfect one comes down to these tiny objective things that you can only see with the right tools.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you, for anyone listening, whether you're a golfer or not?
I think the core lesson from this report is that in any skilled activity, peak performance requires you to measure the things you can't see or feel. You couldn't feel negative 38 RPMs of backspin. You couldn't feel a 10-inch skid versus a 6-inch skid, but the data found it. And that was the key to unlocking improvement.
Right. We all rely on our own perception. We think we're being consistent. We think we're delivering a good product. But what if a high-speed camera was analyzing our process? What tiny inefficiency is hiding just below the surface?
If the difference between a tour pro and a major champion is half a degree of loft and 4 inches of skid, what's the equivalent in your world? What's the hidden counterproductive backspin in your work that you don't even know exists?
That's the challenge this deep dive leaves us with. What objective metric that you're not currently tracking holds the secret to your next breakthrough? Something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.